Most people panic at the thought of being alone. They scramble for company, fill their days with noise, and chase distractions just to escape silence. But you, as a Sigma INFJ, are different. Where others see loneliness, you see strength. Where they fear emptiness, you find clarity. Being alone doesn't drain you, it restores you. Solitude is where your thoughts sharpen, your energy recharges, and your intuition guides you without interference. You don't need constant validation or shallow connections to feel complete. In fact, the more you're pulled into chaos and meaningless chatter, the more disconnected you feel from yourself. For you, being alone isn't isolation, it's freedom. And that's why you don't just tolerate solitude, you crave it. Because in those quiet moments, you return to your truest self, and no one can take that away from you. Solitude feels like home. For you, being alone isn't emptiness, it's the most natural space for you to exist. When the world gets too loud, too demanding, or too crowded with surface level noise, solitude feels like slipping back into a place where you can finally breathe. It's not that you dislike people, it's that being surrounded by too many voices pulls you away from your center. Alone, you reconnect with yourself. Your thoughts settle, your intuition sharpens, and your energy begins to restore itself. While others see solitude as a void they need to escape, you see it as home, a place where nothing is forced, nothing is draining, and everything feels aligned again. That's why you don't just tolerate being alone, you crave it. Because in solitude, you're not lonely. You're free to be fully yourself without compromise. Your energy recharges in silence. For you, silence isn't uncomfortable, it's medicine. Crowds, constant conversations, and endless interactions chip away at your energy until you feel completely drained. It's not that you don't care about people, it's that being around too much noise forces you to give pieces of yourself away without even realizing it. That's why solitude feels so essential. When you're alone, the drain stops. The weight of expectations, the need to respond, the constant pull of other people's emotions, all of it fades. In that quiet, your strength begins to return. Your thoughts clear, your intuition sharpens, and your inner calm resets. Silence gives you something no one else can, the space to be whole again. And that's why you never fear being alone, because you know that solitude isn't where you lose energy, it's where you get it back. You think deeper when you're alone. When you step into solitude, your mind doesn't just quiet down, it opens up. You finally have the mental space to process everything you've taken in from the outside world. While others fear silence because it forces them to face themselves, you embrace it. Alone, you're able to reflect on your experiences, sift through your emotions, and see connections that most people overlook. This is where your intuition thrives, in the stillness where no one else's voice is drowning it out. Solitude gives you the clarity to understand not only the world around you, but also your inner world. It's in those quiet hours that your deepest insights surface, that you connect with who you really are, and that your perspective grows stronger. You don't think less when you're alone, you think deeper, and that depth is what sets you apart. You avoid the noise of shallow connections. For you, being surrounded by people who only talk about surface level things feels lonelier than being alone. You'd rather sit in silence than waste your energy in meaningless interactions. Small talk, gossip, or conversations with no depth don't feed your soul. They drain it. That's why solitude often feels like the better choice. It gives you the freedom to protect your energy instead of scattering it in places that don't matter. You crave connections that are genuine, deep, and purposeful, and when those aren't available, you'd rather walk alone. To others, that might look antisocial or distant, but for you, it's self-respect. You understand that your time and energy are too valuable to spend on noise disguised as connection. And that's why you don't fear solitude, because you know that being alone is still more fulfilling than being surrounded by people who don't really see you. Independence protects your peace. You don't depend on anyone else to feel whole. And that's what makes your solitude powerful instead of scary. Where others constantly look for reassurance, company, or outside validation to feel complete, you've learned to rely on your own strength. That independence means your peace can't be taken away by someone else's absence, mood, or approval. You're not afraid of being alone because you know that your sense of self doesn't come from who's standing beside you, but from the stability you've built within. And that's why solitude is never a punishment for you. It's a sanctuary. It allows you to reset without depending on anyone else to give you clarity or comfort. Your independence doesn't make you cold. It makes you free, free to choose connection when it feels right, and free to walk alone when it protects your peace. You build inner strength in solitude. Being alone doesn't weaken you, it makes you stronger. Every time you step into solitude, you're reminded that you can rely on yourself. You don't need constant noise, distraction, or validation to stand firm. Instead, you use that time to build resilience, to sharpen your intuition, and to strengthen the trust you have in your own judgment. Solitude teaches you emotional clarity because without the pull of other people's energy, you can see your own feelings for what they are. And with each quiet moment, you prove to yourself that you don't just survive alone, you grow in it. This inner strength is what separates you from the rest. While others crumble when left on their own, you rise because you know that solitude isn't something to fear. It's the training ground where you become unshakable. You use alone time to create and grow. Solitude isn't wasted time, it's where your best ideas are born. When you're free from outside noise, your creativity has room to breathe. Insights come naturally because your mind isn't crowded with other people's expectations or distractions. Being alone allows you to dive into your passions, explore new ideas, and work on yourself in ways that constant interaction would never allow. It's in those quiet hours that you grow the most, whether through reflection, learning, or simply letting your intuition guide you forward. While others use company to escape their thoughts, you use solitude to build with them. That's why your growth is steady and authentic because it comes from within, not from the pressure to keep up with anyone else. Alone time isn't empty for you, it's productive, creative, and transformative. You see loneliness differently than others. What suffocates most people feels liberating to you. Where others see loneliness as emptiness, you see solitude as freedom. You don't need constant company to feel alive. In fact, the absence of noise gives you space to breathe, to think, and to feel fully connected with yourself. The silence that makes others restless makes you stronger because it strips away distractions and reminds you that you don't need anyone else to validate your existence. For you, being alone isn't isolation, it's alignment. It's where you're free to live on your terms, without compromise, without pressure, and without pretending to be anything other than who you are. That's why you don't run from solitude, you crave it. Because it's in those moments of being alone that you're not just surviving, you're becoming more of who you were always meant to be. Choosing solitude has never been about running away from the world. It's about protecting your peace and reconnecting with the truest parts of yourself. As a Sigma INFJ, being alone isn't a weakness, it's your power, your freedom, and your way of staying aligned with who you are. And while most people may never understand why you crave it, you know that solitude is where you grow, where you heal, and where you find clarity that noise could never give you. If this resonates with you, subscribe and come back whenever you need a reminder that your depth and independence are strengths. And let me ask you this: when was the last time being alone felt less like loneliness and more like freedom?